Okay, everybody, this is Emar Sopatuth of Sports Inquirer. Thanks for joining us on today's broadcast of the original Free Kick. We're going to preview Atlanta United's match against Montreal tomorrow on October 2nd. We were recording this on October 1st, and the start of October usually means the impact of each of these contests on the playoff picture is very significant in Major League Soccer. And there's no exception in that with Atlanta facing Montreal on October 2nd. As always, to follow everything that we do, head to the mothership to sportsacquire.net, premier site for news and notes in the world of sports. You can also go to our audio and video hosts such as YouTube, SoundCloud, Spotify, Google Podcasts, and iTunes. Do a search on there, follow us, and find out what we're doing. And then finally, our social media platforms on Twitter, Instagram, and Facebook. We have them. Just go to Sports Inquirer and find us there, and you can get all of the information that you need. So Atlanta visits Montreal on October 2nd, as I've mentioned about 4 or 5 times in the Open. But it's a very important matchup for both teams. Atlanta is coming off of a 1-0 home win against Inter Miami on Wednesday, which was September 29th. And that moved Atlanta to sixth place in the Eastern Conference standings heading into this weekend. Remember, the top 7 teams in the Eastern Conference make the postseason. So Atlanta right now, as we're recording this and as you're listening to this most likely, is above the playoff line. And that victory against Miami was also the 8th clean sheet of the season for the Five Stripes. Here is goalkeeper and captain of Atlanta United, Brad Guzan, on the victory.
Yeah, I mean, obviously the result helps, right? But I think, and the manager probably touched on it a little bit in terms of the performance, and it wasn't pretty at times. The first half we had to weather some storms. Obviously make some changes at halftime, and then the second half, I don't think they really had any real sniff at goal, and so that was pleasing to see in terms of our adjustments, but also our commitment, our attitude. Obviously, listen, everyone's going to talk about Joe's 100th goal. But if you remember, there was a play, they had a throw-in down by our corner flag. The ball bounces around this or that. He comes and defends at the top of the box off the corner to my left-hand side. Ends up winning the ball, plays the ball forward, I think, or gets a foul, whatever it is. But, for me, that is a massive moment in the game. And that shows the type of commitment that not only he had, but everybody had in terms of understanding what this game was about, understanding it didn't matter how we got it done. We just had to come away with 3 points, and we did that.
And a major milestone was reached in that contest with Joseph Martinez scoring his 10th goal of the season with a second half penalty kick. And that was his 100th career goal with Atlanta in all competitions, becoming the fastest player in MLS history to reach the century mark. He did it in just 125 contests. Robbie Keane had the mark at 156 matches to reach the century mark, so he obliterated that record. And he's one of 16 MLS players to reach 100 goals in all competitions. And I believe he is only the 5th player in history to do that, reach that 100 goals all with one club. So that was a very big moment for Atlanta. A big moment within the match itself was the subbing in of Matias Rossetto in the second half for Marcelino Moreno. That really opened up the offense in the second half, set up the penalty kick opportunity for Martinez to take advantage of. Now, in that contest, we saw Rossetto and Santiago Sosa play in the midfield together, and that produced some good results. So now, what does manager of Atlanta United, uh, Gonzalo Pineda, do with Rossetto? Does he play Rossetto and Sosa together in the midfield? If you do that, where do you slot Martinez, Moreno, Luis Araujo, and Ezekiel Barco onto the lineup all at the same time? This was asked of Pineda today after practice, and here was his response.
Maths, and it's about game by game at times, depends of the opponent, depends of the tactics. So it's not like I like one pair in front of another one. I think also Marcelino played well. I mean, he did a couple of strides in behind, so it's not like he was the reason why we didn't play kind of better on the first half. It was just a tactical issue more than individual lack of performance. So it's game by game assessment, and sometimes with Marcelino and Sosa we've been very good. Marcelino and Amar we've been very good. So it's case by case and game by game.
A big part of this also will be for Atlanta player availability. This is the third match in a 7-day period for Atlanta. They have a big international break after this contest, but 3 matches in 7 days, that is a lot to deal with. So here is Pineda on player rotation.
Yeah, it might be. It might be. There's going to be some rotations. So yeah, so I'm telling you, there are going to be a couple rotations. Yes, it's just whether who I need to still assess who was good, who was. I still on the side in a few guys. Just the recovery side for me is very important. I need fresh legs, but at the same time I want to keep the momentum of the team. I think we played very good the second half. I'm still very happy for the performance in the second half. So I want to kind of keep the momentum within range and just trying to manage a little bit the load of the players.
And with that rotation has to be the establishment of the players' roles and their responsibilities. And while Pineda is still a new manager to the roster and running the team, he was asked about that as well, helping to define these roles because he came into the season in the middle of the year, and that causes changes in the formations and player responsibilities and everything like that. So here is Pineda on defining the players' roles.
Well, I think I've been pretty consistent. It's just like I had a couple injuries, a couple suspensions, so the rotations came on their own. But at times also I wanted fresh legs for one game maybe. This can be the second game where I want a bit more fresh legs, but it's always game by game. What I would say is that rotations also help with the competitive side of the team. If I play always the best 11 or what everybody calls the best 11, the rest feel aside and they don't have a chance. So sometimes here and there, if they have a chance naturally because there was a suspension, it's good because then they perform and they put pressure on the starter or the other guy, and that's part of the game. Now, what I would say is that also I think with the congested period of time, with many games in a short period of time, the rotations are for me normal. Like at times you need to rest a few guys, but at the same time be consistent. So it is just trying to find the right balance. Probably it's not easy. Sometimes I will make mistakes because that's normal. I'm human, but I will try my best to balance. Yes, the team has a good run and they are feeling important and they are feeling the connections. So maybe I don't disrupt those connections, but I can still refresh the team. And I think I've been pretty consistent. I think most of the guys having played most of the minutes, just a few changes here and there.
And as for the Montreal contest itself tomorrow, Atlanta has had a very good run against Montreal before. They're 5-1-2 in the history of the two franchises facing each other, undefeated at home against Montreal at MBS. However, when they go to Montreal, mixed results: 1-1-2, 1 win, 1 loss, and 2 draws. So they've not been as successful in Canada facing CF Montreal. This is the third and final meeting between these two teams during the regular season. Atlanta was able to win the first contest 1-0 earlier on in the year, but they did have a 2-2 draw at Stade Saputo on August 4th. So they drew in that contest in Montreal. Now Montreal, looking at their playoff positioning, they currently sit in 8th place in the Eastern Conference standings on 37 points. They are right below the playoff line. They had a tough loss this past week on the 29th of September with a 4-1 home defeat against the New England Revolution, the runaway best team in MLS this year. So they are looking to get back to their winning ways or put themselves in a good playoff position. Here is Pineda on Montreal.
A team that always like to play, and I like that. I respect that. I think they're a team that always try to play from the back. They try to unbalance the position. For me, Mihailovic is the one that in between the lines create a lot of problems for their positions, and the strikers for me, Kyoto, like was always trying to run in behind, trying to stretch the teams. Solid center mids. Petit for me is very good in the distributions. With they have a solid team, I would say. And a team that likes to play football. And then it's going to be a challenge. That's going to be the challenge. Who dictates more the tempo, who has more possession, who has better possession. And it's going to be a very, very fun game to watch.
It should be a good contest. Both teams like to be offensive minded, push things forward. I see goals on both sides of the pitch, and a draw would not surprise me as far as a final result. But we'll have analysis of that contest and much more on our site, thesportsinquirer.net. So make sure you go there after the contest for our post-game write-up and post-game podcast or recap that we usually do audio-wise. So make sure you go to the site and check all of that out. Also go to our Twitter, Instagram, and Facebook pages under the Sports Inquirer. And then finally, you can subscribe to us on YouTube, SoundCloud, Spotify, Google Podcasts, and iTunes under the Sports Inquirer. Thanks for listening to us. Good fight, good night, and be safe.